Hello, Hearts and Entrepreneurs. I'm Steve Garvin, and I want to share with you today a couple of ways that I get in touch with my wealthy heart. As you know, two things that I talk about are wealthy heart and wealthy mind. And one of the reasons that I do that is because we need to have both in order to really access our genius. And in our culture, we're very heavily conditioned to focus on more the wealthy mind, on being analytical and or linear and very focused and getting things done and so forth. And which is all great and important, but we tend to downplay our more creative, spontaneous, non-linear, intuitive side. And because we do that, we miss out on the advantages that that side provides for us. And one of the ways that I connect those two things is through art. And I'm going to show you two things that I do. And the first thing that I do is I just start out with, I've actually already done this because I recorded earlier and then had a big interruption, so I had to, I'm recreating this. So what I start out with is just a question, and I just, the question that I had is, will I be ready for JVX conference? And the JVX conference is something that's been involved, that has been coming up for a group that I'm involved with, and there's going to be like 350 plus people there, and it's really caused a lot of anxiety for me. And so that's the question, will I be ready for the JVX conference, which incidentally I fly out to tomorrow, and it's going to be Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week. So we'll ask the question, I take a pen and just scribble. And what I ended up with when I scribbled was this scribble here. And at first glance, it probably doesn't look like much of anything. And to be honest, when I usually start out with my scribble, it's just kind of like, what the heck? But one of the first things that I noticed was this curl right here, which reminded me of a pig. And so that's what I ended up drawing, was just, I'll do it here, was just a pig. And so, and this is not about art. Many of you have seen the art that I can do. And really there's no art skills required here in this piece, as you'll see in just a second. And so what I ended up with was something that looks like this. It's just, it's a 3-year-old version of a pig. And the next thing that I do is I just ask myself, okay, so what does this pig mean? Why the heck am I drawing a pig? And I'll get into kind of my analytical take on that in just a minute. But first things that come to my mind, the first thing that came to my mind was just that a pig tends to wallow in its mud, right? Gets all sticky and yucky, and for most of us, it's kind of like yuck. But the pig is in its environment, and it's happy, it's having fun, and it doesn't really care what other people think. And honestly, as I'm writing this down, I'm having these thoughts right now. So it doesn't care what others think. So I just write those things down, just my first impressions as to what that pig is telling me. And what's going on there is that on one side, I've got this intuitive thing going on where I am just, kind of letting this drawing show up. And it's really just about a picture, and it's our intuitive side is also our nonverbal side, so it doesn't have like a lot of words to communicate what's going on for us. But if we have a way to access it, and again, I think art is an awesome way to do that, then we gain some facility, have some skill. And so what I go from there is I actually go over to the left side of the brain, and I'm like, okay, so what does that mean? And it's attributing meaning to the picture, and it's trying to analyze and figure things out, which is okay. As you'll notice, remember here, I was talking about, when you think about a pig, you think about wallowing in the mud and, kind of enjoying the experience and it's in its environment and so forth. So we've got both sides of the brain going on. The other thing that I do from this point, and I've actually already looked this up, is I'm going to take you on a little internet journey just a sec. So what I do there is I go to this site called whatsyoursign.com, and I look it up. So I'm looking up a pig, and what I came up with were good luck symbols. And I thought it was really kind of cool what it said about the pig. Normally, I know I personally don't tend to think of a pig luck when I'm thinking of a pig, but listen to what this says. It says, doesn't seem like a likely animal for good luck symbols, does it? Nevertheless, the Chinese and Irish both craft lucky charms from the images of pigs. Chinese lore indicates a pig brings good luck for business. As far as lucky pigs in Ireland, we can look to Celtic legend in which Manannán had a nifty herd of regenerating pigs. The herd never diminished, and there's a legend that they even heal themselves too, which is just kind of cool. I'm thinking about this conference, what it's going to be like to go there, and I have this pig show up, and it's just how it's in its environment, it's having fun. It realizes it's not perfect. Actually, I don't know if the pig realizes that, but when we think of it, we don't think of it as being a perfect environment. The other thing that I came across with regards to the pig is that there's actually two kind of opposing ideas. The pig represents kind of abundance and fertility. Like one of the things you see with oftentimes with a pig, you think of I don't know, what are the trying to think of the Charlotte's Web, children's stories about pigs, and oftentimes there's like kind of a fertility thing going on there. It's like lots of little piglets and kind of nestling up with their mother pig. So there's that idea of abundance and kind of plenty and so forth. There's also pigs are big animals, at least barnyard type animals. And but on the other hand, you also think of pigs as being kind of greedy and they want a lot of stuff. You hear the phrases pig out and so forth. And so when I go to this conference, I'm just going to relax. I'm going to be kind of in my environment around other people who are similar mindset and similar perspectives to what I'm doing. And so I can let go of kind of my anxiety. The other thing that's kind of nice is I've actually been looking forward to going down to this event because it's down in Newport Beach area. And having had some really gray, cloudy, rainy, yucky days here in Tacoma, Washington for the last couple of weeks, it's going to be nice to see the sun again. So, there's another positive. So that's that idea for soul scribbles. The other thing that I wanted to share is just what I call, for lack of a better word, I call it kindergarten drawings. And I did, for those of you who were involved with this a couple months ago, I did this ideal client discovery game. And one of the things that involved was was doing kindergarten drawings. And so what I do is, and actually Karen Channing, who's in our group, also just did a course with her, and she does a thing. She has a Facebook group called Doodle Outreach, and then also she did this little course on doodle therapy, and that was just kind of a cool thing too. So what I've done is I just asked another question: what should I create today? And I'm just going to, I've got a bunch of markers here. I'm just going to grab my first one, and I'm just going to do a really quick doodle here. And honestly, right now, I don't even know what I'm going to do. But what should I create today? So the thing that I'm drawing right now is just some window picture. It's got mountains in the background. Kind of, I like to have rivers and so forth. So this is where we're at with it right now. And the next thing I'm thinking is just some grass. And again, kindergarten. Don't think too much about this. Don't spend a whole lot of time. Don't worry about how good or bad or indifferent it is. That's really, really, really not the point. So that adds some interesting dimension to it. So so what I've got going on here is this guy stick figure, and it's actually, I was originally thinking this was probably a window, but what it looks like is actually more of a picture frame. And what the guy is doing is he's just creating kind of a landscape or a overall view, kind of a perspective of what he's creating. And one of the thing that comes to mind for me is just I'm putting together a program, and I've been thinking a lot about it. I'm really excited about doing it. It's a Wealthy Heart, Wealthy Mind course, which will be coming up in a couple of weeks. This wasn't intended to be a pitch for that, but I think it's going to be really great. And but I need to put together something so that I can share it more easily with people and have other people share it as well. And so I just need to do this kind of overall perspective landscape. Don't worry about all the little details. Don't get stuck up in, maybe that's where the grass is coming from. Don't get worried about the individual blades of grass, but just focus on the big picture. Big picture. So those are two of the methods that I use in order to use art in order to get a better feel for, to get some answers to problems that I'm encountering. And if you guys think that this is kind of weird or out there, remember, or take this into perspective. When I first started out in my career and way back in college days, the things that I studied were accounting and engineering. And so I've got a very analytical, very kind of linear way of thinking and viewing things. And that's honestly where I've spent most of my career, is in that very linear way of things. And so I see the value of that. And honestly, there's the other, as I told someone just the other day, I was a born skeptic. I always question everything. And so doing these kind of exercises like I'm doing right now, there's a part of me that's saying this stuff is nuts. But I can tell you it works. It works. It's worked for me. One of the reasons I do the business the way that I do it is because of what's shown up for me doing soul scribbles and things like this. It's given me insight and guidance that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And besides that, it's playful and creative. And if you use these skills, use these practices, I enjoy hearing about how that works out for you. And hopefully this is helpful, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.